So I want to address this comment. And we're going to do so by pulling information from The Color of Welfare by Jill Quadagno and American Apartheid by Douglas Massey and Nancy Denton. White America used to be very much in favor of welfare, especially when they were the only ones who benefited from it. So when we think about food allowances and cash allowances, those were originally put into place in the 1935 Social Security Act. It was called the Aid to Families with Dependent Children. Now, the Social Security Act deliberately excluded certain classes of people from being able to get benefits. And among those, it excluded non-whites by adding the clause, domestic servants and agricultural workers could not get benefits. It added a clause where the states could determine if people in those positions deserve those benefits or not. Now, this language was added because the Dixiecrats of the South had said that they would rather all their people starve than allow any African Americans to get benefits off this act. Now, up until the Civil Rights Act, only whites then were really gaining the benefits of these things. And we saw that the government supported the position that women should be able to stay at home and raise their children. In fact, it was readily believed and accepted that women should not be punished if their husbands died or abandoned them, that they should be able to stay home and raise their children because that was their right, that the children shouldn't suffer and that they would do better if the mother was at home and had a full income and had food and housing and everything provided for her. But the 1960s Civil Rights Acts changed that and made these benefits available to everyone. And suddenly, the messaging changed. So starting in the 1970s, we start seeing, we're building a nation of entitlement, a nation of people who think that they deserve things. And this is a complete flip-flop from earlier messaging. This is why when we changed it in the 90s under Clinton for TANF, we changed the way that it was written to force women to work, which then actually hurts the amount of benefits that they can get. But that wasn't all. Whites were also in favor of housing allotments and other things until other people started to get them. Between the 1930s and 1970s, about $120 billion were made available to housing projects. Only 2% of those were given to non-whites. In this period of time, banks segregated neighborhoods and would not give loans to people of color. In fact, looking at the way that banking practices work, they created a process called redlining, where they would not loan money to people who lived in certain neighborhoods, and you can take a wild guess at who those people were. This meant that whites were able to escape poverty while other groups were not. And as poverty compounded, so did the consequences of poverty. Jobs left those neighborhoods, crime increased, health problems increased. But the people living in those poorer neighborhoods could not get loans to fix it. And these practices still continue today. Wells Fargo just settled a lawsuit where they were found to have been giving higher interest rate loans to people of color compared to equally stratified white American buyers. This means that whites could still escape poverty. But at the end of the day, the middle class was built by welfare programs, the white middle class.